All right. Not all creators would consider themselves creative. Do you believe you have to be creative to live a life of creation? I think we kind of hit on this a little bit too.
I mean, maybe a substitute for being creative is being artistic. Like there are people who are, you know, just by looking at them, you could tell that they're artsy people.
Right.
Um, and that's maybe what you're talking about here in this question is if you're not an artsy fartsy person, or if you don't feel like you're, Jacob Collier looking guy wearing like rainbow pants and being just a super full of life creative looking guy, can you still be a creative? Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, your creativity just comes in different forms that are not as outwardly showing or may not be related to the arts at all.
Or that artsy person you see is not really arty at all either. They're just pretending.
Sure, sure.
I've met a few of those too. You're like, oh, yeah, you're a show.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I agree too. It's just I think I actually changed it in my notes. I'll put artistic now to live a life of creation because I think that is kind of the heart of the question is most people would think creative is equaling artistic. So it makes sense. And no, you don't have to be artistic.
Yeah.
I think it makes it a little easier.
Yeah,
Um,
because you fostered the you've created in yourself the space and the opportunity and the muscles to get into creative situations. And that's part of what that book we were talking about earlier, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, hopes to accomplish in people is if they're feeling creatively stuck, um, she looks, she asks you to kind of woo the creative spirit within yourself so that, people who go a whole lifetime without feeling they're artistic and so they're not creative, they put up these walls so that if they're asked to do something creative, they haven't paved that road
right,
to be open to it. But the more you exercise the spirit of creativity, I think the more adept you get at it.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I want people to understand. It's like you don't have to be necessarily artistic to be a creator. It's just allow yourself to try stuff and try new things and put yourself out there. Because like you answered in the question before, or a couple before, you don't have to be good at it. If you
Yeah,
enjoy the process, just do it.
yeah. Being creative, it has no notion of quality of output or skill level.
Yeah. I mean, I was into punk and hardcore. It doesn't always take a lot of skill, but the heart's there, and it's like you feel, the emotion, and I think that's why it resonated with me.
Well, I'll tell you, as a bartender at a jazz club for 12 years, I was audience to plenty of jazz musicians who would just rip these solos either squelchingly high or just a million and a half notes, and there would be no heart to it at all. And I would always call it the Jazz Olympics because, jazz isn't about like winning a gold medal. It's about the heart of what you're trying to say,
Right.
right? Emotional depth. But these guys didn't have that to contribute, maybe, and they just became monsters. I'm thinking of a bass player in particular, I don't want to name, but he's just like, he barely ever heard a bass player who could play so many notes.
Right.
What is he saying? It seemed really just dry and plastic.
But it's funny you talk about bases because on Facebook today popped up the memory of you tag me and a few other people about the isolated bass of the guy from the Who.
Oh, John
Uh,
Entwistle.
yeah, on was it Who's Next or I don't know, one of their big songs, and holy cow, like that dude,
Yeah.
incredible. And it was he didn't look like he was putting in emotion, but it was like that was art. That was amazing.
And then on the other side of, the opposite of like this jazz bassist I'm talking about, you have someone like the Sex Pistols who, or some other punk band who may not be technically proficient, but the passion of what they're trying to say resonates
Yeah.
hard, you know.
Well, Sid Vicious wasn't known for his bass playing skills. But everyone knows who Sid Vicious is because of the heart he had in it. But
They
yeah,
interpreted the zeitgeist of their time.
yeah,
They were able to synthesize what was going on in their time and place in such a potent way that they were, if you, I have heard a lot of jazz interviews, someone like Roy Hargrove, trumpeter, he would say he's a conduit, he's like, you don't know where inspiration comes from, but if you could pass it through to people, that's your job.
yeah,
And someone like Sid and the rest of the Pistols, they found themselves to be successful conduits of the feeling of the time and place.
yeah, yeah. I think that's why a lot of the punk bands always resonated with me. It was like they spoke for a generation of kids who weren't getting the attention, but
Hmm.
everyone felt it, and it was like they were able to put it into a form, that everyone like, yeah, that's how I felt. I can scream with you. Perfect. It's like
Yeah.
this amazing camaraderie of brotherhood and sisterhood, and like and when I was going to a lot of the shows, it was very like open-minded, and everyone's just happy to be there and supported each other, and like you had a lot of people who had negative experiences within that scene, but I always had positive ones. So I saw some negative, but there's a lot of the heart behind it was pretty cool.
Hmm.
And I still know a lot of those people and hope to have them on my channel at some point too.
Yeah,
Because I mean they have great stories as well.
sure.